All right, so welcome everyone to our strength and conditioning class. This is week number five, six, week number six already, because next week we don't meet.
Right.
And then after that, the next two sessions are our final ones. So in reality, we have only two more sessions of like our regular routine. We have today and the week after Thanksgiving. That final week, which is our last week of the term, we're gonna use to do our assessment. Okay, so we'll close out the class. Any last minute questions or concerns you may have will be answered there. But all the movements that we did at the beginning of the semester of the term, we're going to go over those again. So the goal is to improve on those. So yeah, if folks have any suggestions on or would like to do a specific movement today, go ahead and type that in on the chat. And if for some reason a joint or a muscle group is feeling a little bit tender or sore today, we will make sure that we are just careful with it. But other than that, expect a full body workout right now. Shoulders, arms, back, chest, um, legs, and lower legs. So, all right, let's go ahead and
Yay.
start with the warm up. So let's look left to right.
I need all that. Yes. Whole body workout.
Full body workout. Yes. I finished my bone and joint book over the weekend. Saturday couldn't really do much because it was raining, so I spent a couple hours reading the book and yeah. Um, the good news is that about 60% of that book is honestly up and down, was pretty much what we cover in these classes. Just exercise, moving, stretching, keeping your
Mm-hmm.
joints healthy, balance work. A lot of the first half of the book was on nutrition and supplement, and the back half was all it felt like I was just reviewing our courses, which kind of made me feel good about them because it just reinforces let's do neck circles, reinforces what we're doing here. And what we're doing here is making our bones and joints stronger, healthier. So yeah, if you're in this class and on the Wednesday class, you're already doing most of the work to keep your bones and joints healthy. Switch. Yeah, but a lot of the information was on, specific foods that should be eaten. A good portion of the book too was on recipes, um, on anti-inflammatory recipes. So I'll probably share that when we go into our next, let's do our snow angels into our next semester when we will have more information on Canvas. I'll plug those in there. But yeah, fruit. Saw a lot of things on fruit and veggies and spices. Um, there's more information on different types of protein. Let's go up and down. Main thing that was said over the book was if you could avoid red meats and have more white meat, be a little bit healthier, a lot more healthier to be exact. So, and let's do our front raises right here. We'll be doing some front and side raises. Let's separate our feet a little bit and just start some gentle trunk rotations. idea. So again, we will be meeting tomorrow at 9 instead of Wednesday at 9. So we'll be done early in the week, and then we don't meet next week. So after tomorrow, it'll be almost 2 weeks before I see you again. So our ab circles. So hinge at your hip, but come across, lean back.
Out of there. Out of there. Out of there. Get up. Thank you. But you tell the bed.
With our big hula
Indeed.
hoops,
No,
just big
the noise still
hula
there. I gotta
hoops.
pick it up.
Keep those going.
No, no. I did that. Did he go back? No.
Let's see. Hey guys. Big hula hoops. Switch. Just exaggerate those hip circles. All right, let's go ahead and do a single leg quad stretch. So grab a hold of right above your ankle and pull back. Yeah, it's kind of it was fun. I guess just reading the book coming towards the end because there's a section on strength and conditioning, and probably about 90% of the movements or lifts I saw with switch we're already doing. And then there's a smaller section on balance. And yeah, same as that, there is also a like 95% of the movements we were already doing, the Romberg stands, the toe walks, the movements on one foot. Yeah, we're on it. So all right, let's do our hamstring stretch. So slight bend at the knees, and then just slide your hands down your shins, all the way to your ankles. Hold it there. Try to lengthen your knees, straighten them out. Drop your glutes to your heels, and then back up. All right, and our last stretch, we're gonna go with our deep squat. So drop your hips as low as you can. Drop them as low as you can. Rise. All right, very good. So, like mentioned earlier, we're gonna do full body set of our shoulders, arms, back, chest, and our legs. Okay, so we'll try to focus each set into groups of or four different movements. So we'll always incorporate an arm one. We'll incorporate either back or chest, shoulders, we will, and then also legs. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our dumbbells. So go ahead, grab those dumbbells. Okay. Got my 10 pounders here. Okay. Alrighty, so we'll start off a little bit on the lighter side. So for our first movements, let's go ahead and do front raises for our shoulders. Okay, front raises for our shoulders. We're gonna do good morning. So grabbing a light dumbbell, we're gonna hinge at the hips, come forward, lean forward, and then come back. So keep that back straight, hinge at the hip. Okay, and then that's gonna work our back. Now for our arms, we're gonna do our regular bicep curls right here. And then for our legs, we're gonna go with sumo squats. Okay, we'll do those four. All right. So if you have your dumbbells ready, let's go ahead and do those. All right. So ready? Front raises. Give me 10 to 12. 3, 2, 1, go. Go. Okay, so make sure you're inhaling on the easy part, exhaling on the hard part. So you're exhaling on your way up, inhaling on the way down. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Very good. So we're gonna go ahead and take 30 seconds rest in between. Putting it down here on my notes. Okay. We have next our good mornings. So remember, hold the weight here, and then we're leaning forward, and then coming back up. You could do this on a chair as well if you like. If you're doing it on the chair, just make sure you're sitting towards the front of the chair. Because if you're sitting in the back, you're gonna, it's gonna interrupt your movement. Okay. Let's try with this 25-pound plate. So again, 12. Ready and begin. Oh, 1, 2. So hinge at the hip. 3, keep your back straight. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right. Very good. All right, next is our bicep curls. So let's go ahead and grab some weights for that. Bicep curls, since I have about another 10 seconds. Anyone do anything fun this weekend? No, the rain kind of prevented fun things to happen. All right, so 10 to 12 bicep curls. Remember, ready? And begin. So curl up, exhale, and then all the way down. You want that full stretch. So try to slow it down. Don't do them too fast. So 10 to 12. At 8, 9, 10. You feel good? Give me 15. And if you could do 15 and it feels pretty easy, then it might be time to move up in weights. All right. Very good. All right, and then our next one is our sumo squats. So again, this one's for your legs, so feel free to go a little bit heavier. Your legs tend to lift a little bit more than your upper body. All right, let's go ahead. Grab that dumbbell wide stance. And remember, just down, torso's nice and up. That's 1. 2, keep our torsos up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2 more, 11, and 12. All righty. Very good. All right, so this is where we take our 1 minute rest. So catch your breath. If you want to burn a little bit more calories, just walk around or do some jumping jacks, but you don't have to. Just trying to be ready for our next set. So we're doing the same movement. Front raises, good mornings, bicep curls, and our sumo squats. Okay, we still have about another 40 seconds to go. All right. So front raises, we're ready. Yeah, Jen, I'll be at a hotel for 2 evenings later this week, so I'll be doing the same as you are right now. It's always nice when the hotel has a nice gym. All right, so 10 to 12. Ready? And begin. So shoulder height, back down. Or so you're breathing. 11. Go for 15 on this one. Oof. I don't have to do that one later in the week. Well, that one burns the shoulders. Let's see. 30 seconds. Gonna say the next one's the good mornings. So if on that first round it was a little bit light, then maybe if you could go a little bit heavier, or if it felt just right, maybe we do a couple more repetitions. All right, I'm grabbing my 25-pound plate. Ready? And begin. One. So I like going a little slower on the way down and a little quicker on the way up, but I just feel I have more control on the way down. One more. Going for 12. Two more. Last one. Oof. Oh, it's tough. Right. Oof. We have our bicep curls next. Yeah, I did 10 miles on Saturday morning, like right when it was pouring. But you know what? I felt like, I don't know, I felt super strong and confident after that race or after that run. It felt like a race. Um, but yeah, it definitely boosted my spirits. I felt pretty proud. And then I was really exhausted after. Bicep curls. Ready? Here we go. 10 to 12. So full extension at the weight down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Extra credit. Wait for 15. And 15. Work. Last ones are sumo squat. Sumo squat's the next one. Grab that dumbbell or two. Wide stance. All right, give me 12 to 15. Okay, try to go deep and begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Very good. All right, so this is where we just completed our first giant set. We're gonna go ahead and take 2 minutes. As we transition, we're gonna go on the floor for this next set. So we're gonna go ahead and do We'll start off with push-ups. Okay. Gonna incorporate a little bit more legs for this one. This down here. So push-ups will get our chest. Okay, chest and arms. Then we're gonna do our sliding sit-ups to get our core. We're gonna do Jane Fonda's to get our lateral thighs, lateral side of our legs, and then we're gonna do some glute bridges to get our hamstrings and our glutes. Okay, so that's what we're gonna be doing next. So about 30 more seconds. Okay, so remember push-ups, you could do knee-assisted push-ups, regular push-ups, wide push-ups, narrow push-ups. So whatever you want to do, if you have them, your arms closer to your body, they're gonna be working on your triceps a little bit more. Now, if you have them wide, it's gonna be more shoulder and chest. And then if push-ups are a little bit too much and even knee assisted, we could do dumbbell press. If you have dumbbells and you're on the floor, you could just do a dumbbell press if you're comfortable there. All right, so the goal is to do between 12 and 15. Get ready. So remember, inhale on your way down, exhale on your way up. Ready, and begin. 1, 2. Stretch your back when you're at it. Okay, we're gonna get on our backs and do our sit-up variation, which is our sliding sit-ups. So right here, hands on your lap, and we just slide your hands towards your knees. Gonna work on our lower abs a little bit right here. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, and go. We're going for 30 seconds. Ten more seconds. 3, 2, 1, time. Get on your side. We're just gonna be here on our side. And we're gonna do our Jane Fondas, okay? So if you have the mini bands conveniently nearby, you can always put those around your ankles. But yeah, let's do 10 to 12. Ready, begin. So up and down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Switch sides to the other side. All right, once we're here, let's go ahead and begin. Go ahead. So 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right. Once you're done with that, I want you back on your sit-up position. This time we're gonna have our arms to our side. Okay. So what we're gonna do is just bring our hips up, squeeze the glutes, hold for a second or two, and then come back down. Okay, give me 10 of those. Ready, and begin. So count 1, 2, and then down. Repeat. So you're breathing. That's one. Very good. All right, give yourself a minute. Minute rest. If you want to stretch a little bit or just relax. Think about where you're gonna eat for lunch or breakfast. Oof. Is that your vacation stay, Jen, or are you traveling?
We're en route to Arizona.
Okay, cool. You're there for a few days?
Yeah, gonna be all next week in or this week in in Tucson. So
Okay.
I'll try to join tomorrow.
Yeah, no worries. If not, you do your stretches in the car. Just kind of
Yeah.
neck circles. So, all right, let's go into our second set. Yeah, our second round. So again, at your own count, on your way up, exhale, on your way down, inhale. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Once you're done, just kind of bring your glutes back to your heels. Drop your head. Stretch out your arms. Very good. We're going to switch it up with the core. So we did our sliding sit-ups. So this time we're going to do some hip rotation also for our lower back. So we're going to go ahead and do our knee drops. So hands at your side. So knees could drop. This is going to feel more of a stretch than actual strengthening movement. Now, if you do the crunch version where your legs are elevated, that might feel a little bit more demanding. So let's do 8 on each side. Okay, so when you're ready, either lift your heels or keep them on the floor, but drop your knees to the sides and begin. So again, 8 on each side. Wow, almost there. You need one more on each side. Ah. Oof. Alrighty. Okay, Fonda's what I have next. So, so for this next one, we could actually switch it up a little bit, just like we did with the crunches. So working out similar movements or similar muscle group, we're gonna do our clamshells. So legs are extended initially for a Jane Fonda. Tuck in your knees a bit closer. Your heels remain in contact with each other, and the separation should be happening on the knees. Okay, so just separate your knees as wide as you can, and then close them. And let's do 10 of those. Okay, so you should feel that on the side of your glute, maybe even your inner thigh. Give me 10 on each side. Once you're done, we'll switch sides. And again, just separate the knees. Very good. We still have our glute bridges. We'll just get on your back. Get in that sit-up position. And remember, we're gonna elevate our hips off the ground, squeeze for 2 seconds, and then bring them back down. Okay. Ready? And begin. Give me 12 of these. If you're pretty confident in your posture, what you could also do is lift your toes off the floor. So you're just being supported by your heels. Okay. But continue to hold for 2 seconds. Awesome. All right. Back on your feet. We have our 2 minutes rest. Moving on to our next movement. What are we going to go with next? All right. So we're going to go with our shoulder press. If you have your chair nearby, you could do them sitting down. Okay, so we're going to do shoulder press. It's going to work on our shoulders. Then to work on our obliques, we're gonna do our standing crunches. So elbow to knee. Okay, 10 on each side. Once we're done there, we could do our bent over rows. Do that motion right there in the bent over motion. And then we can't forget about our lower legs. So what I want you to do is we're gonna do our heel raises. And then if you could find an open wall, we're gonna do our toe raises. So you're pretty much leaning on the wall and you're lifting your toes while your heels are fixed. And that's working on the front part of your lower legs. This is to prevent shin splints or any pain on that front part of the leg. Okay. All right. So grab your dumbbells, doing our shoulder press. Remember, if you have a chair nearby, you can do these sitting down. I would recommend it if you feel like your back usually gets a little bit sore and tender from these. So starting here and exhale, inhale. Okay, so give me anywhere between 10 to 15. 4. All right, bye, Jan. Have fun. Drive safe. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Oof. Yeah, I like doing those. Usually sitting down, or if I'm standing, I do like a split stance so my back doesn't get irritated. But I feel sometimes if I'm not watching my form, the first thing that takes a toll is my lower back. So, all right. So as mentioned, next we're gonna go ahead and do our rows. Oh, our standing oblique crunches. My bad. So elbows behind your head, hands behind your head. And this one's just gonna be pretty much idea is to bring your elbow towards this little crest here between your femur and your oblique, trying to dig in there. And then we're alternating. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do 10 on each side. I think it's easier if we just focus on one side first and then switch. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. So also working on balance while being on one foot. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got your breath. When you're ready, let's go on the other side. Ready, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oof. Arms get a little tired from that too. All right, bent over rows is what's next. Remember these, we could go here, or we could do assisted while supporting your body with your other hand. It just takes a little bit longer when we do one arm at a time. Okay. All right. We're ready. Let's go ahead and do those bent over rows. Give me 10 to 12 on each side. So back is nice and straight and begin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, we have our calf raises next. How's everyone doing? Thumbs up. Very good. Staying dry. All right. Okay, great. Grab those dumbbells. Remember, we're doing our calf raises, so 15 to 20. So heels off the ground and then slowly down. So go at your own count. Try to spend about half a second with the heels completely elevated before I bring them back down. Very good. Okay, I'm gonna take you folks for a little ride. So just gonna come here to this wall, maybe a little bit lower here. I'm just gonna lean up against this door. Okay. There's about a foot gap between my heels and the wall. And I'm just gonna, if you see my toes come off the ground, that's all I'm doing. Okay, so give me about 15 of those. So heels stay flat, toes go up and down. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. All right. Very good. So that's our first round, and we're gonna do two. So this is where we're taking our 1 minute to 90 seconds rest. Okay. So go ahead and do that. Grab some water, use the restroom if needed. Right. Okay. Looks like it's a little on the cloudy side right now. Probably gonna rain a little bit later. Okay. So we're back to our dumbbell presses here. Okay. Let's go ahead and begin. So recline back, dumbbells at your side. Remember, exhale on your way up, inhale on your way down, and begin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Gonna go for 14, 15, 14, 15. Oof. All righty. Okay, we're gonna switch it up with the oblique. This time we're gonna go opposite knee to elbow. Okay, so we're just gonna come across and really focus more on driving that knee across. Last one, it was more of your torso down. This time is your lower body coming across. Ready? We're gonna go 10 on each side, a total of 20. 3, 2, 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Oof. Arms are a little shot. Good. We have our bent over rows and then our lower leg movements. So a little bit of water. All righty. Bent over rows. Ready? Let's bend over and begin. So 12 to 15, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Good. Calf raises and then tibial raises. Wow. So again, just a reminder, we're meeting tomorrow, not Wednesday. We don't meet next week. And then the week after will be a regular week. And the final week will be testing for our baseline. So hopefully we're improving on that. So yeah. Oof. I think most of you should be re-enrolled. I think there's just one class that I haven't seen enrollment get updated for. Let me tell you real quick what class that is. But in case you're wondering how come I'm not enrolled in this class, it's because it hasn't been updated on my end either. That's it. Took my breath away. Let me just double check. Yeah, so the strength and conditioning class for next semester hasn't been updated yet. So I need to call and confirm there's a holdup with that. So, but 3 out of the 4 classes have been updated. All right, let's go with our calf raises. We're here. Let's go ahead and begin. So lift your heels. We're doing 15. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Right, 15 of those. We're gonna do a small superset after this one, after this movement, but then we'll go ahead and just go to our cool down. So number 15 of the toe raises. So just toes come up the ground, back down. So 15 of these. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. Okay. Very good. All right, so we're gonna go with just one last set, last superset before we start a cool down. Oh, let's drop the camera. Well, the whole class. Discharge this. All right. So our last set, we're gonna go with lateral raises and then either tricep extensions or dips on a bench. Okay, so we're just working on our shoulders and our triceps. We haven't really hit our triceps today, so we just want to make sure that we don't forget about them. So almost there. We'll do 2 rounds of each. Okay. All right. Let's grab our dumbbells. 10 to 12 or 15 if you feel strong enough. Ready? So you just come up to the side. 3, 2, 1, go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Same with our triceps. We're gonna go ahead and come to a bench, or you could do the tricep kickbacks with the chair assistance. Okay, so if you're doing the bench dips, remember your legs are extended. That's more challenging. If they're tucked in a bit, that's gonna be a little bit easier. Ready? So 10 to 15. Ready? Begin. Ooh. One more round. Give ourselves about a minute right now, using our arms quite a bit. And quick question, has anyone ever taken um classes, emeritus classes at Irvine Valley College by chance?
Bye. No, my son went there though.
Oh, okay, Irvine Valley.
Played baseball there.
Okay.
Nice campus.
Yeah, I've never been.
Yeah,
But
it's a nice little campus.
Okay. Yeah, I just did a pretty casual interview with them last week. And so I'm trying to see if I could maybe get my foot in the door with them as well.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. I
Yeah.
have to see if my son's coach might still be working there on the baseball. I
Oh,
think
okay.
his last name's Madole. I'll have to ask. I'll ask my son.
Yeah, it would be so we're going with their lateral raises. Yeah, it would be the like the adult programs, they're a little bit more like separate from like those departments. But yeah, but I'm trying to see if I could get remote classes again too. So we'll see.
Now that's a nice little college.
Let's go ahead, do our lateral raises and begin. So 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, one more, and 15. Alrighty, just our last set of dips, and we will be on our way. Whew. All right, here we go. Last set. So tricep extensions or dips, and give me whatever you have left. Ready? And go. 2. Ooh, 20. I feel like my arms are gonna fall off. Okay. Let's grab your chair and let's do a cool down. So, whew. Very good. High fives. Job, everyone. Hopefully, been a little bit sore, but still feeling great. Let's go with the trunk rotation. So sit on the front of your chair, legs pointing forward. Grab a hold of the chair, just gentle rotation to the right. And switch. Rotate to the other side. Sit on that left hand. Right hand comes over. Drop. Oh,
There's a turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day at Irvine Valley College.
okay. Yeah, I feel like Thanksgiving morning has to be like the most popular day for 5Ks. Not sure if it's because, people are just trying to make room for the feast that's to come, let's switch. Or yeah, I think when I participated, um, they usually have pies that they give out for first, second, and third place. At a lot of them, sometimes even turkeys. So yeah, it's one of those fun days for 5Ks. I think I have some of my runners doing one in Long Beach. I know there's a pretty fast one in Dana Point or Laguna Hills out there. But yeah, it's a super popular day. Let's do our piriformis stretch. Uh,
Well, I don't have to cook, so I don't have anything to do on Thursday
there you
morning.
go. Yeah, it's I was thinking of there's also a trail run in Griffith Park Thanksgiving morning, but it just Griffith Park I think it just sounds very hectic, with especially if it's a race or an event there. I don't think I've ever had great time with parking. Um, let's push down. So yeah, so I think that morning I might just yeah get my long run in and hang out. I don't think I'll race, but yeah, it's a fun day. Everyone gets active. Some people dress up as turkeys and race. Let's bring that knee up. You'll be home, Ella, or you're traveling?
Yeah, I'll be home. My kids are in Irvine, my son and his family, and they're in charge of dinner this year.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been like the last 3 or 4 years going to my aunt's in LA, and yeah, she takes care of dinner and she just asks everyone else to bring a side. So, well, I mean, dinner, we probably eat dinner super early at like 2:30 or 3. So, let's bring that ankle on that left side. Then we watch a movie or watch some funny YouTube videos for about an hour, and then we eat again. Whoever's hungry. So,
Eat again?
yeah. Well, we start at 2:30. So, yeah, I know. I wish I'm like, how come we don't eat at like 4, even 5, like, but yeah, let's push down, gentle push down. Let's bring that knee up. All right, folks. Thank you for sticking around. Like I mentioned yesterday, on the email. No, it wasn't yesterday, it was like 5 days ago. But as I mentioned earlier, tomorrow we will meet at 9. We will meet on Wednesday. But do we have any questions before we head out? No. All right. You folks stay dry. It's supposed to rain. I think not as bad as Saturday, but it's still supposed to rain.
Happy
And
Thanksgiving.
thank
Happy
you. Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
So if I don't see you tomorrow, happy Thanksgiving.
Don't eat too much.
All right. I can't make promises. All right. It's
Gracias,
good
Julio.
meeting. Bye, everyone.
Gracias.
Take care.
See you later, alligator.
Sounds good. Bye. Bye.